Hello guys, welcome to today's video with me, the Purpose Queen. If you're seeing this channel or this face for the first time, my name is Ibilate, but here they call me the Purpose Queen, and I'm happy to have you. If this is your first time, please do not make it your last time. Subscribe to this channel, and if you're an OG, we started this journey this year. I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for sticking with me through the year, and let's keep it going for the new year. In today's video, I'm going to talk about the International English Testing System. I hope I got that right. International English Language Testing System, yes, which is known as IELTS. It's an examination that is written for people who want to emigrate to English-speaking countries such as Australia, Canada, UK. These exams are mostly required depending on what you're going to do. Like maybe you're going to work, you're going to study, and there are different types of this exam. They're just different information you should know about this examination because a new update just came out, and today I want to share that with you. Also, I'll be telling you how I got a band 8, and I'll be giving my own little tips, tricks, advices on how you can also score a band 8 or even higher. Stay tuned on this video. So if you've been watching this channel, you'll know that I reside in Canada. I reside in Toronto. To be specific, I came in as a permanent resident, which required me writing IELTS general training. So for the IELTS exam, there's also the academic. So that's for people coming into Canada for higher education. They will need to write that version of the exam, but I wrote the general training. It has some similarities, but it still has its differences. So ensure that you know which you're supposed to write by visiting the site of the IELTS and taking the quiz. They'll usually ask what you're traveling for, and that will determine which one you need to write. I think there's also a UK VI1 for people going to the UK. Now, there are two organizations with which you can register for your IELTS exam with, and that is IDP and British Council. If there are more than that, I am unaware, so please do write it in the comments, but I am aware of these two. And I would say do your research properly before knowing which one to write the exam with. Some people claim that there are differences, but for me, I feel like the exam is the same across board. Also check for their frequently asked questions on their website and send them an email if there is something unclear that you would need to know about the organization or the examination process. So coming into Canada, there are also French exams you can take, but that is if you are fluent in French, or maybe you can also study for it. I wrote English because, well, I mean, that is my first language, and I wrote IELTS. I know that there is also another English examination you can write, but I wrote IELTS because it's more common and it was just easier for me. So today I will be breaking it down and letting you know how the process was and anything that you need to do to get better in your IELTS test. Now, pardon me if I keep calling it an examination or I keep calling it a test. I mean, it's the same thing I'm talking about. Please don't feel like there are two different ones. So the IELTS exam is divided into 4 categories. You have the listening, you have the reading, you have the speaking, and you have the writing. Usually the speaking test is done on a different day, but I believe that depends on where you're writing and when. So it depends on how you register. Also, they are all timed differently, and there are similar but also slightly different rules pertaining to all of them. There's also the option of computer-based or written, like with a paper and pen. So that was the one I went for. For the listening, you listen to a recording. I mean, it's as implied. You listen to a recording that is into 4 parts. I believe there are 4 different recordings you listen to. Each one will accompany 10 questions. So that's 40 questions in total. And you have to listen attentively because whatever is being discussed is where your question and answer is coming from. That is exactly what is written in your examination paper. The conversations are usually like everyday conversations, maybe between friends or between people at a store, things like that. But the first tip I want you to know about listening is that you have to block out every external noise. Even internal, you have to block out every other noise and just focus on it. I wrote in Lagos, Nigeria, and I was given headsets. I was told that some locations don't give you headsets, so you have to be listening to the audio coming from a loudspeaker. But luckily, we use the headsets in my center, which I hope that's how it's going to be if you're writing in Nigeria. So you have to listen attentively. Don't get distracted by anything, because as soon as any conversation goes by, they are not going back to it. Nobody's going to rewind for you. Nobody's going to pause for you. So if anything goes by, please just forget about it and move on to the next one. Make sure that you fully understand the question or the conversation before you write. Listen to the end, because they might, when I mean listen to the end, I don't mean listen to the end of the tape before writing. Listen to the end of a particular conversation, because for instance, the answer to a question might be, oh, someone is wearing a red shirt. So the answer might be red, but they'll first of all want to distract you by saying, oh, the person putting on the blue shirt, and you're so quick to write blue, but they'll say, but in the conversation you will hear a second answer that might say, no, not the blue, the red. So that's when you know that, okay, the actual answer was red. So please calm down. You don't need to be jittery for the examination, for the IELTS as a whole, but this listening especially, because it carries high marks, you have to calm down and pay full attention to it. Ensure that you are listening to understand, ensure that you are reading to understand before you write down your answer. If possible, write down in a pencil and then later change it to the pen. But because the listening exam is short, I think it was about 30 minutes timed. Do forgive me if I can't remember, because I wrote this in 2019, but I believe the timing was short. I know it was like maybe 30 minutes to an hour. So you don't want to delay on it, because you will not be given a lot of time after you finish listening to cross-check your answers. Please do not forget about your spellings. Spellings are super important in IELTS as a whole, especially when it comes to this listening, because you might think that, oh, okay, I heard spoon, but the actual answer was spoons. It is important. Plural, singular, all of that. Ensure that you write it in the exact way that you heard it. So next, I'm going to talk about writing. And I know that writing for academic and general training both have two writing tasks, although the kind of writing tasks are different for both. For general training, which I wrote, task 1 is to write a letter requesting something or explaining a situation. I actually remember what I wrote about. And then for academic, task 1, you'll be given like a graph or a chart or something, and you need to write about it, like to explain what you're looking at, so more like a visual writing. So for writing task 2, for both, is more of an essay. You are writing your point of view about a specific topic. So I feel like writing, if you're good at writing, you're good at writing. That's one thing. So writing was my least scored, and as usual, I'll put my scores on the screen while explaining. It was my least scored, yes. And I feel like the best way for you to practice writing is just to practice writing. I'm sorry, it's just as straightforward as it is. Practice your lexicon, your sentence structure, grammatical errors, things of that nature. You just have to keep practicing, because as much as you don't know what you're going to be asked, if you know how to put your topics in the right structure, if you know how to start the letter and how to end the letter, if you know things like that, if you know the body, the introduction, what comes first, what comes in what manner, then you'll be good to go in writing. There is usually a number of words when it comes to writing. I believe we might have all experienced that in secondary school. So please, as usual, try not to exceed it. You can also write in pencil and then change it to a pen. I did that, but you have to be time conscious as usual. I think you're given an hour for writing. So 20 minutes for the first one and 40 minutes for the second one. Although you will be writing them together, like you don't have to submit separately, you submit them together, but ensure that you are aware of the time, and please hasten up, because that adds to your points. You don't want to leave it halfway done. So reading is usually made up of, I can't remember exactly how many parts, please forgive me, but it is usually made up of multiple parts, because there will be true, false, not giving, there will be a comprehension, and you have to read through it and answer what you're giving. Reading Reading was ironically my best, even though it is reading. Sometimes when you're reading something, it gets boring, especially depending on the comprehension topic. It might be something you have zero interest in, but you have no choice. You have to read through it and answer from it. Please, first thing you need to bear in mind is you are reading to answer. You are not reading to give facts. If they say the first president of Nigeria was Muhammadu Buhari, please don't go and start saying it's not true. Is it true according to the text you were given? Is it true according to the comprehension? So just ensure to stick to that, especially when it comes to true, false, not given. If it wasn't there, then it was not given. If it was there, but what they're asking you is not what they're saying, like it's the opposite, then obviously it's false. If it is exactly as it is written, then it is true. So you have to remember these things. Remember your spellings, remember to go over your work again. You should learn to skim when it comes to reading. When I mean skim, please, I mean like SKIM, like skim through. So that was what helped me. I think I had gone through and answered, then I still had enough time to spare, so I came back and read through it properly. I started to change things up in the passages, and we're like, okay, so I missed this, so this isn't exactly what it is. So just learn. I know that everybody has the way they go about when it comes to reading things and understanding, but please take your time. Maximum concentration is really needed for you to pass reading. Okay, so finally, speaking is done one-on-one with an examiner. The person will have a tape recorder recording the conversation, and they will be the ones asking you a question. So I guess they're just trying to see how conversational you are in English. And if you're a chatterbox, if you're someone that knows how to talk, someone that is good in English, good with their words, this is where you will shine. Make good use of it. So for speaking, I think I also have like a few pointers here, because I am someone that I just know how to give my answer like straight to the point, but I got to see that, okay, I needed to should I say, like, I needed to stress more on what I was talking about. Yeah, first of all, it's divided into 3 parts if I remember correctly. I think it's the same too for academic. So the first one was an introduction, or introduce yourself. So you say your name, whatever. Please don't just stop or introduce yourself. You just say your name and that's it. Try to go a bit further. Okay, you can add like your age, where you're from, where you stay, things like that. I don't know if there is over talking in speaking, but I'd say don't argue. Also, you need to watch your examiner. I mean, I know some people, I've met a few people who say, oh, it was their examiner, like the person's vibe, or I don't know. I don't know if that's a possibility, honestly, because I don't even know if that person is the one who marks it, because they have a recorder there. But, people would, people would have different reasons why they think they didn't do well. So I don't want to say they were right or they were wrong. But what I would say is just calm down as well. Like for all of them, I'll say be calm, really. Like, don't fuss, be calm. So yeah, after the first intro, then the second one you're given, or I think you're given like a topic, or you're asked a question. But that one, you have like 2 minutes to talk about that, so you have to stress on that one. I remember at some point when I was talking, I stopped because I felt like, okay, I've said what I need to say. And my examiner, she demonstrated like, okay, like, go on. So I had to go on and added a bit more to the story. You just have to make it interesting, and just be confident, really. I will not say go there and start changing your accent or start doing, however you speak, really, just speak like that. It's your command of English, it's your confidence that they really want to hear from you. So generally for all of them, one thing I'll say is, however you're choosing to study, please stick to that pattern. Wherever you're getting your resources from, stick to it. You can have 1 or max 2, but you don't want to gather from everywhere and then get confused. No. I remember when I started mine, someone gave me a course in which there was, should I say, like a tutor that was talking about the exam and what he did and how he passed, and it was so boring for me. I'm sorry. I was like, okay, I'm grateful, but it is not my thing. That's not how I learn. So instead I chose to practice. I was practicing a lot. In a day I would do like at least 10 examples, and I'll put myself in exam condition, which means I would beware of time. Yeah. And because I knew I would use a headset for the listening, I would use a headset. I would do exactly like, I would act like, okay, I'm in the exam hall. I would practice as much as possible. And there's good news now from the examination council. There is now a one skill retake, which makes it marvelous. If this was the first you're hearing about it, let me give you a background story. So before, if one of your IELTS exam scores were below par or was not to your satisfaction, was not to your liking, then you needed to retake the whole exam. So if, for instance, you liked your listening score, your reading score, but your speaking and writing scores were low, then you'd have to write the whole thing. But now there is one skill retake, so which means you can only retake the one which you didn't do so well in. Isn't that exciting, guys? You're eligible to book the one skill retake after you have written your exam using a computer-based test. So yes, this wouldn't have worked for me anyway because I didn't use computer, but if you do a computer-based and you've received your results, usually results come out 2 weeks after your final one. So if speaking was your final one, it will come out 2 weeks after. If you had the others as the final, it will come out 2 weeks after. And they don't miss. No, it would actually come out when they say it would. So usually that is when you can register for a retake or even for a remark. Some people do that if they're so confident that this is not what they're meant to score, they ask for a remark. Also, you must book the IELTS one skill retake within 60 days of when you wrote the initial one. So keep that in mind. And I'm going to talk a bit more about the IELTS band score system. So the band scores range from 0 to 9, which is a shocker because the exam questions are usually 40 for reading and listening, and then for writing you have 2 parts, for speaking there are 3 parts here. So you'll be wondering, okay, how do they measure this band scores that become 0 to 9? All of that information is also on their website, but they arrange it from 9 being the highest level of English use and 0 being the least. So it depends on your competence in English, your fluency, and everything. So they've ranked it in that way, and they have their conversion metric. So if you have, and I'm just going to use my score as an example. So I had a 9 in reading, I had 8 in listening, 8 in speaking, and 7 in writing. So they added all that up, divided by 4, obviously. So that's how you get your average, and that was how I got a band 8. So after they have done the conversion to the band scores, then they do the average and you get your band score. So when people say, oh, I want a band 8, I want a band 8.5, I want this, I want that, because that is what will enable me to apply for my relocation, then you know how that is gotten. Okay, so I've come to the end of this video, and as usual, if there's anything I left out or if there's anything you're still curious about, please don't forget to leave a comment down below or shoot me an email. You know the details, thepurposequeen@outlook.com. I always leave it in the description box. I always leave my details. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok. That's where it's that's where it's at, guys, because I drop little content here and there on those. Please don't forget to follow me there. Don't forget to keep sharing my videos. Let it go as far as possible. You know people around you who need to hear these things, and I'll see you in my next one.